My name is Derek Benson and this is Daily Reprieve. As I mentioned in our first video, the purpose of this channel, Daily Reprieve, is to foster engagement on topics surrounding one's mind, body, and spirit, but with a particular emphasis surrounding alcoholism, drug addiction, and life and recovery. Today I am seeking my daily reprieve, my daily postponement from alcoholism and drug addiction by sharing my story. I hope by sharing my story I encourage others to share their stories, and ultimately we can foster engagement surrounding these topics of mind, body, spirit, alcoholism, drug addiction, and life and recovery. I was born in Hartford, Connecticut. My parents split when I was young. The age difference between me and my mother is almost the age difference between my mother and my father. I grew up in South Florida with my mother. I split time between Florida and Connecticut my entire childhood, and some words to describe me as a child, I'd say I was inquisitive, energetic, mischievous, athletic. Fifth grade, my parents went through a pretty dicey custody battle. As a result of this custody battle, I was given some options and I elected to attend military boarding school. I attended Admiral Farragut Military Academy, which is a military boarding school located in St. Petersburg, Florida. I attended Farragut for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and during this time period, I began to separate myself from my peers athletically. An administrator had taken notice and said if I was sincere in playing college athletics, that I should take a look at Fort Union Military Academy, which was a military boarding school located in Fort Union, Virginia, for high school. I attended Fort Union Military Academy for 9th, 10th, and 11th grade. And during my early high school years, I had exposure to parties and alcohol. I drank a couple times, but it just really wasn't my thing. I was really focused on my academics as well as athletics. After my junior year at Fort Union, our quarterback decided he was going to play postgraduate football that next year, and it was time for me to transfer. I needed a quarterback, and so I found Avon Old Farms, which is a boarding school right in our backyard here in Connecticut. They had proposed repeating my junior year, which I did. They said it would help me athletically and academically. And after my junior year at Avon, I left. I found the Hun School of Princeton, New Jersey, which to date is one of the best decisions I made. When I was at the Hun School, I really excelled athletically and academically. I received a number of scholarship offers my senior year at the Hun School. I did very well academically, and I signed a letter of intent to play football at Purdue University February of 2005. That spring semester, I did have hernia surgery, and it was the first time that I was given a larger quantity of prescription narcotics. It was the first time that I abused prescription narcotics, and it was the first time I abused prescription narcotics and drank alcohol simultaneously. So I graduated from the Hun School of Princeton, New Jersey. I reported to Purdue University, West Lafayette, Indiana, the summer before my freshman year, worked out with the team, and I redshirted my freshman year at Purdue. I was your typical student athlete, redshirted, worked out, drank. I think it's safe to say that I did party a little more than the average student athlete, but everything was pretty consistent in my life at that point. The summer after my redshirt freshman year, I was back in West Hartford, Connecticut for a couple weeks before summer classes back in West Lafayette, and it was the first time I was exposed to Oxycontin. Some friends and I were going to go out that night and party with some other people and at a bar in Hartford, and I blew a 60 milligram pill with someone. That night I drank and I proceeded to get arrested for fighting. Reported back to Purdue for classes, went through my sophomore season, and we played Indiana University toward the end of the season. I threw a party after we brought the bucket back home. A player had an altercation with a police officer at my house where there was a party, and I was arrested for furnishing alcohol to minors. The one consistent thing between these two instances was alcohol and partying. I was off the team initially. They brought me back on the team, couldn't go to the Hawaii game, was suspended, brought back on for spring ball, and I just thought at this point I needed to chill. I needed to be decisive and not reactionary, right? I still drank, I still occasionally smoked weed, and I still occasionally abused narcotics. After the 2007 season, I transferred to Hofstra University for 2008. I was a scholarship athlete at Hofstra University for 2008-09, and I graduated in the spring of 10. When I left Hofstra University, I left with my degree, but I also left with an addiction to narcotics, prescription narcotics. After graduating, I worked 3 jobs in finance over a 3.5-year period. And during this time, after graduation, I began living a double life. My addiction began to snowball as I brought more money in, and my life became predicated on drinking, drugging, partying, sex, gambling, lying. I became morally bankrupt. I had no balance between my mind, my body, and my spirit, and the best way for me to describe it is I truly felt like I was in a blind alley. I knew where I was, but I couldn't find my way out. So situations kept happening, and in December of 2014, so 12/12/2014, I turned myself in. At that time, I was facing a litany of criminal charges related to interfering with a search warrant, possession of narcotics, DUI, burglary, larceny, you name it. I was incarcerated for some time, and during my time, I wrote a family friend who I knew was in recovery. I knew if I wanted something that I had never had, that I needed to do something that I had never done. And I wrote a family friend that was in recovery, so I sought out recovery. And this family friend wrote me back, connected me with a gentleman, and this gentleman and I began writing one another. I was transferred from this facility to a 42-day inpatient program at Connecticut Valley Hospital. And during this time, I connected with this gentleman. He said to give him a call the first day he was out, first day I was out. So the first day I was out, he picked me up for a meeting. He brought me to a 12-step meeting, and I can remember in early sobriety, a gentleman told me, stay close to the herd or you'll get picked off. And there was a lot of these one-liners that people said that just kind of resonated with me. But again, I knew if I wanted something I never had, I needed to do something I had never done. And the one thing I had never done is stayed sober. I always put myself in situations with drugs and alcohol. I've maintained my sobriety since 12/12/2014. I'm approaching 4 years, and there's been some things that have been rather consistent in my sobriety. Unity is one. Fellowship is one. Service is one. Also, every day I do something to challenge myself mentally, physically, and spiritually. I hope others share their stories. I hope that we can engage on how we maintain our sobriety, and that we can continue to foster engagement surrounding these topics.